Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Greetings from the Wasteland and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. We're going to mellow you out today with some interesting things found inside the covers of old record albums. And in our spin from the Wasteland, we'll feature what is quite possibly one of the most boring records ever. I know, right? What a way to tease an upcoming segment to keep you sticking around. But first, we'd like to welcome back Ken Norton from Ingram Entertainment, who's been busy at work making sure all of these Record Store Day orders are good to go for coming up in April. Ken, good day to you, sir. How's it going?
Hey, going well. How you doing, Joe?
Good. You have been pretty busy the past few weeks, getting everything ready. How did that process, this stage of Record Store Day, how'd that go for you guys?
Oh, it went great. Just really super excited about how many stores are working with our company. But just it's great to see how much enthusiasm there is still for Record Store Day. It grows every year somehow, and this year's no different. I think it's going to be bigger than last.
This is the 15th, but they are basically splitting this one into two. Even though we said, oh, Record Store Day is one day in April again now, there is this June date that's looming as well, correct?
That's right. They're calling it a drops, and there will be a significant number of titles in June, more in April. That's the big day,
Yep.
but June is the secondary date, and the real reason for that this year is manufacturing. If all the vinyl that can't be ready in time for the April drop has been moved to June.
Okay, well, and that's just been an ongoing problem with the industry for, about the past year or so, it seems.
Oh yeah, it's an ongoing issue. Everybody's aware of it, and it's a logical thing to do. I mean, there are enough titles to make a second event. It's just it'll be the secondary event. The big one is in April.
Oh, cool. Now, do you have any favorites, or are there any standouts from the orders that you've seen in the April day?
So from perspective of interest level, it's a tremendous amount of interest in the Alice in Chains
Yep.
12-inch. That's been a big one. Uh, the Taylor Swift single, huge interest in it, and unfortunately, it's absolutely for sure going to be allocated because they're only making 10,000 of those things.
Wow.
And if you think about, there's almost 1,400 record stores participating in Record Store Day. Well, the max that they could each get would be, if they all ordered it, would be like 7, something like that.
Wow.
That's not enough
Okay.
to make fill the demand. So that's
No.
going to be an allocated title, we're sure. But there's tremendous interest in it. And let's see, gosh, man, there's so many. It's a little bit of a blur to me right now.
I would imagine. Well, the Taylor Swift one, I guess, could be understandable. She is the ambassador, international ambassador, after all this year. But I've been getting a lot of calls here at the store from folks, and like we talked about last time, we talked about that move with making her ambassador, bringing in new people to the store. I can absolutely attest to that. We're getting calls from people who don't know what Record Store Day is, they're unfamiliar with the process, but they're interested in this Taylor Swift 7-inch.
Hmm hmm for those same fans, there is another record that's coming out. That's it's a various artist record, but it does feature Taylor Swift as the first track on it, and it's to raise awareness and funds for uh, females in the music business.
Oh, okay.
So watch out for that as well for those Taylor fans.
Okay, that's a cool thing. The one that's standing out to me, and I didn't talk about it on our show previously because I didn't quite see it, but it is the reissue of the Royal Tenenbaum soundtrack, the Wes Anderson film. I love that soundtrack. I love that movie. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a real good one.
Well, hey, speaking of soundtracks, and I'm going to get you off kilter here a bit more, but there's a few in this Friday's releases to highlight, isn't there?
Sure. We'll start with the soundtracks this week. You've got the music from the motion picture Sleepless in Seattle, uh, coming out as a reissue after not being in print on vinyl for umpteen years. And also, You've Got Mail, also from sort of the same era, and that's a various artist soundtrack with Harry Nilsson's tracks, Carole
Yeah.
King. some classic music, stuff like that.
Now, here's the thing. I saw those two coming out, and in my opinion, the labels are missing the biggest and best Tom Hanks Meg Ryan collaboration movie there was. Yeah, those two are cool, but where's Joe versus the volcano? Come on, I want that soundtrack out. That is a fantastic movie, and it's got a good soundtrack to boot. But we'll have to wait.
Maybe they're negotiating for that one. If these do well, maybe they'll get that one next.
There we go. Well, what else can we look forward to this Friday?
For a lot of folks, the big record this week is from Ghost. They have a new album. I'm familiar with them. I'm sure if you're into that, you're familiar with them. They're one of the preeminent bands in their genre. And there's an indie exclusive version that you look for, and that is on orchid colored vinyl. There is a Mars Volta record, Tremulant, I think is how you say it. It's a limited edition glow in the dark vinyl. And there's a Melvins record that's, I believe, on, I want to say four LPs, multicolored vinyl. Each vinyl in the set is a different color. And that's an all acoustic recording from the Melvins.
Something a little bit different for Melvins fans in that set.
Yeah, you don't think acoustic and Melvins in the same sentence usually, but
You
it's
don't.
interesting. I haven't heard it.
Well, cool. All right. Well, Ken, thank you very much for hitting on the highlights of this week's new releases. As always, continue the good work you guys do, especially with regards to Record Store Day. I'm starting to see a few of those are even beginning to trickle in, aren't they? So the shipments are probably going to start, I would imagine, sometime in early April.
Oh yeah, we would hope to have it on the way to the stores in early April, so you have plenty of time to get it out of the boxes, priced up, ready to go for the big day.
Well, and heck, then we're going to turn around and do it again in June. But again, as always, thank you for that. And thank you for the highlights in this week. You have a good week, and we'll talk to you later on.
You too. Great. Thanks, Jim.
Like most record stores, we here at Radio Wasteland see our fair share of vintage vinyl, used records that are brought into the store from folks looking to sell or trade. Over the years, I have brought in thousands of used records here to the store, and like most good record stores should be doing, we inspect every single one, to make sure that they're not damaged, they're not warped, they're clean enough, they're playable, before they head back out on the shelves for sale. But oftentimes, inside of a lot of these old records, we find hidden goodies, things that were not originally a part of the album, but a previous owner had stuffed away for safekeeping. Most commonly in these used records, I've found things like love notes or scratched out lyrics, things of that nature, where they're rewriting the lyrics or drawing pictures of their favorite artists and then keeping them inside of that record. At times, though, I've also found detention slips, hidden away from parents inside of a record or two as well, or maybe old photographs. This goes all the way back to 78s, and in a few of these, including older records, I found some of these instructions that used to come with turntables on how to use the automatic record changers. And mentioning 78s, in a box of 78s once, I found a picture, an old portrait of a family that I'm guessing is dating back to the early 1900s, maybe the 30s or 40s. By the way, if you recognize any of these folks, please let us know. I'd love to get this back to the descendants of this original family. There's no other information on this, by the way. We looked at the back. The photography studio is originally from Bay City, Michigan, not too far here from our store in Midland. On to more current rock and roll albums, though, I've found newspaper clippings, including this version of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper that has a newspaper clipping which identifies everyone seen on the cover. So somebody had seen this cover, thought it was cool, and then found an article that helped them identify everyone on there and kept it with the album for safekeeping. As for the newspaper itself, it's a Detroit area paper, so it could be either the Detroit News or the Free Press. I'm not sure. That portion has been clipped out. But on the back are movie listings, so it includes films like Fireball 500, Born Free, The Big Mouth starring Jerry Lewis, and Covenant of Death. So Born Free was 1966, and The Big Mouth was 1967. So it's safe to say that this newspaper clipping is from 1967. Still, though, a very cool artifact to find hidden away inside of a record. More recently, on a trip to Canada pre-pandemic, I found a Canadian copy of Rush's Permanent Waves. And inside of that was a newspaper clipping from the Toronto Star dated Saturday, March 15th, 1980. And this is basically just a review of Rush being at the center of the LA star scene and how these local boys from Toronto made good. So a very lengthy article on Rush. Again, a very, very cool find inside of that album, and Canadian album to boot. So one of the other things I find occasionally inside of records, especially psych rock albums from the 1960s and 70s, are, you're guessing it, seeds and stems from a plant that's now, well, legal recreationally in Michigan and many other states. Again, not as common as finding old photographs or love letters, but still an occurrence that shows up from time to time. But a few weeks back, in going through a new batch of records here in the store, I found something inside of this War's Greatest Hits album that was a little unexpected. Along the lines of those seeds and stems, out popped a package of gummies. Pineapple Express gummies, to be exact. Premium MKX Gold Distillate, 200 milligram per piece, and a package of 10. As you can imagine, it's flattened out so as to be hidden directly inside of an album. I'm just kind of picturing somebody saying, "Hey, honey, have you seen my War album?" The answer being, "Oh, I sold it to this guy at the record store." Oops. So I'm curious, what is the weirdest thing that you've found tucked into an old used album that you've picked up from other sources? Please leave a comment in the section below and let us know what you found. As for these, well, not certain, but I think they're past the expiration date. Who knows? And finally today, I hope I'm not going to bore you too much with our spin from the Wasteland. A few shows back, you might remember we did a segment on instructional vinyl. We'll put a link up at the end of the show if you care to check that whole segment out. But we had this album come in, also in the instructional vein, on how you can hear to touch type using one of those old manual typewriters. It comes with all sorts of instructional material and booklets and add-ons that help you learn how to type on a Brother typewriter. So I wanted to see just how interesting this instructional would be, and quite frankly, it is not. So you folks have a good week. We'll let you mellow out with the sounds of a typewriter clicking, and we'll talk to you next time from Radio Wasteland.
Raise each finger slightly before striking the key. Strike sharply, like this. Release the keys quickly. Hands in position. Eyes on copy. Let's begin. F, 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 space. D, 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 space. S, 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 space. A, space. J, 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 space. K, space. L, L,
baby, round,
L.
round like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.